This is The Naked Life with Roxanne Noor. Hey guys, thank you for joining me today. I want to talk about a few revelations I've had, and they're around the scope of emotions, disassociation, and the ability to have a sense of neutrality in life. So I consistently observe my surroundings, especially the people closest to me. I look at the way in which they function, the way in which they get their desires, the way in which their desires are far-reached for them. And I look at the people around me who seem the most happy and why, and the people around me who seem the most unhappy. One thing that I've consistently noticed with the people who are able to obtain what they really want in life is that during certain periods, they are able to remain neutral. So in the articulation of what they want, they're almost not governed by emotional spectrum. Like their want overrides their emotions. An example of this would be you really, really want to write a book, but you wake up in the morning and just the world is shit and you don't feel like it and your throat hurts. The people I've seen who are happy and successful are the ones who are able to override, not always, but sometimes, a lot of the time, they're able to override what they feel. They see their emotions as these transient things, and instead of falling prey to everything that arises, there is this long-term vision of what's actually important. And I see the same thing in relationship. So in relationships, we're consistently getting triggered by our partner. They know our wounds better than anyone else. They're able to irritate us more than other people because they're around us all the time. And the couples I see that fail are the ones who are so caught up in just the emotion of the moment. So, oh, he's really annoying, which means that he's annoying all the time, where it's just the moment that you're feeling irritated. And the thing with emotional people, if someone's emotional with you and you project back that same emotion, it's a feedback loop. So you're perpetuating the same thing versus someone who's in a deeply emotional state, maybe angry or maybe sad. If the other person is in a state of neutrality, they almost regulate that other person to come out of it. And so emotions are beautiful for the capacity to feel, but then we have to ask ourselves, what is it that is useful? Is this feeling right now? Is this thought I'm having? Is it useful to the vision of me creating my book one day? Is it useful to my relationship? And the main thing is, when we are highly emotive, we feel that it's true. But then 10 minutes later, we don't feel that way anymore. So how can we base all of reality solely on just emotional input? And that's the whole balance of things, is finding the ways in which it's beneficial to be rooted into feeling versus when it's important to override those feelings for a greater vision of the world or for a state of clarity or for peace or neutrality. One example I want to give you guys is that when the whole pandemic was happening and I was looking at government regulations, I was seeing all the things that were occurring, I felt so disheartened and so angry with the way in which people were just submitting. And in discussions around these things, I would get really passionate and really angry. And the feedback I got was, Roxy, I can't even speak to you about these things because you're so passionate and angry that you're not even hearing me. And that was the opposite of what I wanted, because what I wanted was something useful where I would be able to understand the people that I actually fundamentally disagreed with, and that we could come to a joined kind of understanding of each other and the world as a whole and work through the societal issues that we were placed in. So when we're feeling emotional, it's really important to ask ourselves, like, what is this emotion doing with me? And then to see the difference between what we feel in the body versus what we label the emotion as. So a lot of the time I'll feel like a tightness or my heart beating faster. And this could be labeled as anxiety, but actually what I'm feeling is this excitement. And I've noticed this with actually turning emotions over on their head. A good example of this is the feeling of jealousy. So the feeling of jealousy is kind of this like envy. And when you really go into the feeling, you're jealous of the person because there's something in you that wants to be like them. And there's a place in you where you feel you're unable to reach what they have. But you are, because you're seeing it in them. You're also a human being with similar capacities. So the opposite side of jealousy is actually inspiration. And when I was younger, I would feel jealousy and insecurity arising. But the more I challenged it, the more I saw it from a different angle, I actually saw that there's no reason for me to dislike this person, to be jealous of them because of X, Y, and Z. But actually, I could use the root of the feeling, which the root of it is they have something that I want. How are they doing it? How are they getting there? And in this way now, I can look at, like, the easiest situation for me to look at with jealousy is other women. I can look at the beauty of another woman. I can look at the way in which she holds herself. I can look at the way in which she speaks to men, the way she articulates herself, her state of being, her state of walking. And I can feel reverence for it. And I can feel inspired by it instead of threatened by it. Because that emotion of jealousy, I see the futility of it. I see the fact that it's not completely sincere. And I also see the frivolousness of it because I am jealous of a person for what I see outside. And I'm comparing everything I see outside to myself, who I know so intimately, to what I'm feeling inside. And that's not even a fair comparison. So why am I jealous of something when I haven't seen the whole picture of it? I don't know what that person is fully like. Would I actually trade shoes with them? Maybe not. And this is where it comes into self-knowledge and to see the patterns in which we feel and the way in which we navigate our emotions and the complexity of them. And I think a lot of intelligence is knowing how to hold contradiction, knowing how to hold the paradoxes of what we feel. That so often when a friend tells me something and they got the job that they wanted or they got the man of their dreams, and that I feel genuinely really happy for them. But then also I feel like a slight pang of doubt in myself. And for those to be able to coexist and to not neglect the feeling, but to not wallow in it, to not prolong it, to not stay in the unnecessary parts of it. And a lot of this capacity to feel is reading the environment, knowing when it's safe to associate with the feeling and when actually it's necessary to disassociate. And so a lot of the time, this is commonly happening through pain. So, and especially extreme physical pain, right? It's the body's protection mechanism. I had one friend in Thailand who was in the ocean and she stepped on a sea urchin. And she said the only thing that allowed her to get back to the shore when she was in so much pain was disassociating actually with her body. And it's almost like she saw herself from the outside walking towards shore, visualizing herself becoming safe. Because if she associated with that feeling of pain in that moment, she thought she might have, drowned or swallowed water or been in so much pain that someone would have to come and swim and save her. And so when is it appropriate to associate, to feel the pain, to feel the joy? When is it appropriate to disassociate? And it's kind of funny because the same thing goes with happiness. I remember when I was living in New York and I was doing pro bono work for one nonprofit, I was like going around and talking to local businesses, and multiple times people asked me if I was on MDMA. They were like, I just don't get why you're so happy. It's kind of scary. Like, it's a bit off-putting. And like, to read the situations we're in, and it's not like just conforming to whatever everyone else is doing, but to know when something can be received or to be understood, or when it's not going to be. And that's the beautiful chameleon likeness that we all possess when we are not reactive to emotion, when we know when to fully feel it, really go into it, and when it's actually going to cause us more hurt. I think especially with pain, we get lost into either side. So a lot of the time there's the complete neglect of it. There's the complete disassociation. And then on the other end of it, there's the mental illness, the really just like feeling like the emotion is you and it's not. And that's what creates the sickness of mind. And what also creates the sickness of mind is pretending that it's completely not there when it is. And so for me, it's like a really interesting game. And I know for myself that when I'm able to go into the deepest places of emotion is actually, for me, really in solitude, really in holding myself, really in actually thinking and processing and allowing myself to feel. Like, yeah, there's so many points in time where I feel existential despair for the world. I think about the stuff I've been through as a child, and I'll allow myself a few hours in bed just crying and releasing. And then afterwards, there's like almost a glow. There's this like lightness of being after a good cry, after a good laugh. And yeah, it's such a beautiful thing. And so the more we can watch emotions as they arise, the more we have the capacity to handle them with grace and with intelligence and use our emotions as actually connective tissue rather than disconnecting us from other people that we love. And so I just urge you all to notice the ways in which our emotional landscape affects life as a whole and the ways in which we can utilize it and work with it rather than being a victim to it.